Much to my horror, it's been more than 18 years since we got the B-36 out on display initially, right?
Welcome to the Aviation Show, brought to you in association with the Pima Air and Space Museum.
Yeah.
Scott Marchand, CEO of Pima Air and Space Museum, Arizona Aerospace Foundation. How the devil are you, sir?
Well, a little sweaty and warm, Matt, to be honest with you. It's, it's high monsoon season out here in late July in Arizona. And much as I welcome the rain, we're not accustomed to humidity.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
And yes, for the record, it was your idea to do this from the cockpit of the B-36. It wasn't my suggestion.
I have no recollection of that conversation whatsoever, Matt, but, anything for the shot.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, the big news was that after many years out in the sun, your Convair B-36 Peacemaker has trundled over to your restoration area to get a bit of TLC. But before we talk about that, do you want to tell us about why your particular B-36 is rather special?
Well, I mean, as much as a B-36 can be special, this one is special because it's the last one off the assembly line at the factory in memory serves 1958-ish, that type of time frame, and it was one of the last ones to retire into Fort Worth in 1962. So, as we all know, B-36s accomplished nothing much other than burning an awful lot of gasoline.
And starring in Jimmy Stewart and John Wayne movies.
Well, yes. These are all true. It's a great, probably the most exciting thing B-36 ever managed to do, other than, didn't they lose a nuke somewhere?
They did, yeah. I have to put along the bottom where that particular broken arrow was, yeah. But let's talk about the restoration, the tidying up work you're going to do, because what went into deciding that it was time for the B-36s? You've had a lot of aircraft go through there recently. You've had Sophia, you've had the NB-52A, all these big things, and you've gone for the biggest now.
Yeah, well, we built the facility to enable us to do the big things more efficiently and more safely and more economically as well. So much to my horror, it's been more than 18 years since we got the B-36 out on display initially, right? And I have to say, when we were doing this back in 2007-ish, we really didn't have a whole lot of, the facility wasn't anywhere near as robust. We only had one boom lift. It was a very slow and delicate process to get the paint on it. And the UV and the sun takes its toll out here, especially with metallic paints. If you've seen the airplane recently, and I think, we'll send you some photographs of sort of the general condition, and that'll sort of answer the question for you. We've had a lot of paint loss, certainly on the upper part of the airplane, and losing a lot of big sections of paint. And, of course, the one of the B-36's nicknames was the magnesium overcast, and it earns that moniker by being, heavily skinned in many, many sections of magnesium. And magnesium's a very reactive metal. It likes to corrode. It's a little tricky to work with. You don't want to set it on fire, because once it's on fire, it doesn't go out. So, yeah, it was looking shabby, and it was just time for a little bit of TLC, and we now have sort of the staff and facilities and the ability to really throw down a lot of paint on it this time, and hopefully I'll be well into the nursing home before anybody needs to think about painting it again.
Was there surprise when all the wheels moved when you attached it to the tug?
No,
because 18 years over by the main roads, quite a while to be sat there.
Yeah, but one of the things that we do, and certainly did with this thing, is we sort of take as much of the brake assemblies out as possible, all, the shoes and drums and pucks and whatever is in there, because those are the things that tend to accumulate all the dust and dirt and spider webs and dead lizards and that kind of thing that bind up the wheels when you try to move them. But if all that stuff's out of the way, there's nothing to grab them and impair movement. So that's kind of where we were at.
So I can remember the last time I was out there a couple of years ago now, my fears of climbing into the high and mighty one, just in case you guys had left any visitors.
Yeah.
When you opened up your B-36, how was there too much in it? Because you're quite happily there melting in the cockpit. Had any of
Yeah.
the local critters made themselves at home?
No, no, not at all. It's been pretty, pretty weather tight. I mean, there's some dust in here. I mean, obviously, the wind blows and there's old seams and there's escape hatches and rubber gaskets that have gone. So there's a little bit of dust in here, and there's some paint and primer flaking away that it's generally speaking, I mean, the gang out in Fort Worth, when they put their energy into this, way back in the 90s, did a really nice job with stuff. I mean, they obviously had hoped to be able to put it inside somewhere, and that never happened. And, we, of course, benefit from that. Their misfortune is our fortune, I guess you could say. So, it's no, it's in good shape. Yeah, quite pleased with what we've been able to see so far.
Fantastic. So what's going to be the process? What's the plan for, I guess it's going to be stripping off the exterior paint at the moment? Is it going to be reprimed? Yeah. What are you guys going to do? Is there any work on the interior? What structural, what's the plan for tidying her up?
No, the interior is not getting any attention. I mean, it's not something that's accessible or viewable, and that's just a lot of wasted expense and energy and effort. So yeah, as you point out, we will give the airplane a complete strip back to bare metal, and then build it up with several coats of epoxy etch primer, which gives really good performance on magnesium, and then just build up our usual acrylic urethane. Get 15, 16 mils of depth on everything. I mean, the thicker the paint layer you can get, the longer and better performance you're going to get out of it. It's not trivial. I mean, what would be, have to do some thinking, but I mean, the sheer surface area of the airplane is certainly probably not less than 40 or 50,000 square feet of surface area, right? So when you figure, the length of the fuselage is a cylinder based on its diameter, then the wing area plus and minus, up and down, and then the tail group. And then, we generally like to get at least, I mean, we're talking about mils, but just in sort of layman's terms, we like to get at least 3 or 4 solid coats of paint on it on top of primer, and it'll get 2 or 3 primer coats. So figure, the whole airplane is going to need 7 passes of primary material, and then markings go on top of that.
Is there any contingencies if once all the primer's off, you find a bit of corrosion that you need to tidy up? Or is there a preparation ready for changing out panels or anything like that? Or is it just going to be
I don't think we're going to need to change out any panels.
Good?
I mean, it should be pretty good. I mean, we're not seeing any significant corrosion or loss in the panels that are now exposed. So, they'll get skin brightened, remove the oxide, and get primer on it, as quickly as possible. There's probably going to be a few more pinholes popping up in the magnesium. That's kind of what it does. It tends to do that along rivet lines or panel lines, where there's a little more stress when the metal moves. But generally speaking, the primers will take care of those pinholes pretty efficiently. So there's no reason to get too granular on that stuff. But if anything is really bad, needs replacing, it'll be reskinned with aluminum.
Mm-hmm. And that won't react, the 2 metals crossing over on that?
Well, over time they will slowly, but if we get an epoxy layer between them, if it can break as many surfaces that can lead to galvanic corrosion, it'll slow it down, but it won't. I don't think there's any real good way to completely interrupt it. I mean, once you drive an aluminum rivet through the magnesium skin on the other side, you're setting up an anode. So,
What was the team's reaction to finally getting their hands on this one? Because I know
we've got a pretty young new team.
A lot.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've got a fairly young new team. I mean, we only have a couple of volunteers here. We're still around the first time we did this. So it's pretty novel for everybody. It's not a, oh God, here we go again type of thing. It's, there's a lot of interest and enthusiasm in it, just given, how utterly massive and ungainly it is.
I guess the big question is going to be, because it's left a big old hole out there on Bomber Row. How long is the project going to take?
Oh, longer than I wanted to. I mean, that's kind of a given. Um, the, you know, take your best guess and triple it. I'm thinking. I mean, look, to be fair, they're wrapping up some other projects right now. They're getting the Ferry Gannet finished off, the
Mm.
H-21. As you see, we had the Hawkeye arrive yesterday, so that's getting a little bit of
Yep.
attention. And and then probably in the next week or two, we'll go full on starting the strip and prep here. I mean, the guys are starting stripping paint off the cockpit windows and checking hatches and drain holes and just sort of doing general survey. There's a few birds' nests here and there. There's some screen blew out in the wheel well. So we got to take care of that kind of stuff. We're probably going to need to change the wheels, or not the wheels, but we're going to have to change the tires again. They were old when we put them on, and they're 18 years older now, and we're starting to see some splitting in areas that aren't going, that basically said, oh, these things aren't going to last much longer. So, changing tires. So we'll do a lot of that pragmatic stuff. And then the guys will start working on stripping. It's actually a good time of year with the humidity being up. With the stripper we use is basically an alcohol and peroxide based stripper that's environmentally benign, but likes to stay. It's only active when it stays wet. So when we're stripping, we'll have to work in sections and cover it with plastic sheeting to make sure it doesn't dry out or get washed off in any way we don't want it to. So the longer it can dwell on the paint, the more it's going to remove in a coating. And if it works the way it's intended to, it cooks the paint off, and it kind of looks like cooked turkey skin the way it bubbles up. It comes off in great big sloppy sheets. So that's really the plan. So we're probably looking at 3 or 4 months of prep before we start painting. Painting we'll do similar to the big heavies we've done. We'll do it in quadrants. We'll do the front end, back end, left and right wing. So that'll be sort of the focus of staging through. It's not, if you watch some of the freeze frame or the slow mo of commercial airliners getting painted, I mean, they knock these things out in a couple weeks, but you also notice they've got 6 or 7 teams of people working on the airplane simultaneously in really nice big climate controlled hangars, and we don't have that luxury. So what you see on that type of thing, just kind of unravel it like a string. The fewer the people, the longer the path, right?
That's all exciting. Have you taken the opportunity to move anything else around? Because I know a few aircraft had to be shimmied out of the way for this one to get past. Are you
Yeah,
going to
all went back to their parking spot. We're the E2 is going to go back out south of the hangars 3 and 4. We've opened up a big patch of ground out there. So, we're working on some redisplaying, consolidating some of the airliners. Probably in the not too distant future, we'll move the Dreamliner around back with the rest of the big airliners, and that'll free up room for Navy stuff and smaller things in the yard. I mean, we really do need to start moving some of the super heavies and the big stuff into the back where it's easy to get access to the tow road and restoration, and their footprint frees us up room to park smaller things more compactly, which ends up being a lot more considerate of the visitor experience. You covering less ground to see more airplanes.
Yeah, sounds great. So another aircraft I saw that was finally inside the restoration hangar was the stealth fighter, the F-117A Dark Lady, who had that fantastic chat with John Boyd about.
That's old footage that Ramon's showing from a couple months ago. The team from Guard Lee that's from the last voyage. The team from Guard Lee's back in Florida, and they're fabricating their next round of stuff. I expect we'll probably see them out here in October, and fingers crossed we might see a final push, but I suspect we're probably looking at one more round of fabrication. And it's sort of like it's kind of like a logarithm. Like the closer you get to absolute zero, the harder it is to get there. So they make a big press forward and then realize, oh yeah, we're missing a fairing that needs to fill in these gaps and points. So it's inching along. It's tricky technical work, and we're fortunate to have a contractor that we can sub that out to, because it would take a lot more a lot more time and energy than I think we have the ability to here right now. So, and and Guard Lee, those guys do phenomenal work. So once they've knocked it out, I mean, it's probably going to be probably one of the best restorations of the 117s at any of the museums that have received them, just because it's going to be, Tom's going to have this thing spot on and indistinguishable once we get everything stapled on and all the paint and bits and pieces put back on.
I quite like it in the bare metal, personally. I think it looks fantastic.
Yeah, do an homage to the Starfighter, right? We'll just polish it up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Other updates, Sopwith Camel's been done. I saw that when she was still just being skinned a while ago. Is that out on display now?
Yeah, it's out on display. We tucked that into a spot in Hangar 1 with the early aviation aircraft. That's been a great one to get out there. I mean, as it happened, we had in the collection original Clerget 9B engine and a Sopwith Camel prop and an instrument panel and gun sight and these kind of things. So we were able to integrate some original componentry into John Shaw's phenomenal replica. So quite pleased with how we managed to put it together. I mean, as you know, Matt, and your listeners know, the relative number of bona fide surviving First World War aircraft, radio aircraft of that era, that are substantially authentic to the period. I mean, you don't even need to take your shoes and socks off to count the airplanes, right? I mean, it's, but there are some phenomenal high fidelity replicas out there, notably the guys in New Zealand that have been doing the work down at Peter Jackson's shop. I mean, they've slowed to a crawl. I don't know if they're doing any more airplanes, to be honest with you, but the ones they've churned out are just phenomenal. Kermit Weeks has a Snipe and an Albatross. They're just, oh my God, they're just, like truly works of art, So we are, we're fortunate to be able to sort of plug that didactic hole we had. It would be nice to get something German, First World War era, but I don't see anything practical on the horizon, but never say never, right?
Couple last ones before I let you head back towards the air conditioning. Hawkeye arrived yesterday. You sent me a lovely, very smug selfie of you tugging that across the road from DM.
Yes. I'm allowed every now and then.
What's the plan for the Hawkeye?
Well, the Navy crew is just finishing up the decommissioning work on it today. Then we need to do some people proofing, tabbing, build some collars for the struts and some stands for the wheels. And hopefully the next couple weeks we'll put it out on display, probably with the C2 Greyhound and the EP3A and things of that nature, the little or sort of modernish Navy cluster that's developing out there.
Yeah, that was exciting. Thank you for sending me that. That sort of cheered up my evening, which was going in a different direction. And how's the Messerschmitt BF-109 project coming? Which is another slow burn.
Yeah, another slow bird. We've contracted, some wing modifications and repairs with Gregor Gutenberg in Germany. For those of you not familiar with Gregor, he does amazing work. His website's arsenal45.de. He's just a superb guy, a great craftsman, and honestly, somebody you might want to get on the program because he's just a super person and he's an amazing resource. And when we get things back from him, they're pretty much indistinguishable from period work. So he's it's fussy, fastidious work, and he's grinding away at it. But once we get the wings back, I'm hoping within the next year we should see the wings on the way back here, and we can, and then we're probably gonna have Gregor come out here to help with final assembly and fine tuning. And I mean, it's been a long, slow haul, but I mean, to be fair, it hasn't been the full focus of anybody, just given, the nature of the work we've needed to contract with Gregor. It would be hard to do here because all the resources that would be necessary to build the patterns and blocks and things are all, in German and, poor, World War II microfilms. So, really, really kind of an uphill struggle unless you're really technically fluent in German. So having Gregor to take care of this stuff has really been critical to that project be sustainable.
Fantastic. So
Yeah.
it's low season at the moment due to just the nature of the weather in Arizona there.
Yes. Yep.
Like you've got the night ops going on at the moment as well. You got any more
Yeah, our
planned through
last
the
one's
summer?
coming up this Saturday. The last couple times the Martin Mars has been hugely popular, so we're thinking about maybe doing a few more just sort of dedicated Mars sessions on, say, some Fridays and Saturdays. One thing, we've had long lines because it's a hard airplane to have a flow through, because the cockpit's on an upper deck, kind of like a 747. So you get the narrow spiral staircase, and of course everybody that gets in wants to see the cockpit. So you can get a couple people up and down at the same time, and even if people are going through in 3 to 5 minutes, you multiply by 100 people waiting outside. It's just slow. It's slow. So we're hoping maybe we do some, Friday, Saturday mornings, we just pre-sell 50 tickets and that's it. And people can get a little more time in the airplane. But of course, it's still hot. It's, we've got the aircraft air conditioner, so it certainly takes the edge off. But, waiting in line and being outside, it's a challenge. But, you guys are getting a bit of a taste of that in England right now anyway. So, and you don't even have air conditioning to escape to.
No, it's and it's been muggy here as well, which is hot, muggy in my house, which is 130 years old, so it was not designed for this.
No.
Sort of thing.
It lets the heat out in the winter and keeps the hot in the summer.
It's an amazing piece of design. It really is.
Yeah.
But anyways, this has been a lot of fun. We're going to have to talk properly about the Mars, because we keep kicking ideas around for that.
That's probably time to rip the scab off and just dive deep into that one.
Yeah, considering I think my last trip out was supposed to coincide with it arriving the second time it didn't arrive. Yeah.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah. But
so for all those people that wonder why nobody kept it flying, we could. we were lucky to get it here on a final ferry flight. I mean, look, as much as people love these airplanes, the reality is stuff wears out. It has its time, it has its day, and you elevate risk to a lot of these things. There's reasons we're not driving around in 1964 Jaguar E-types as a routine conveyance, right? It's just, they were the standards at the time. They did their thing, and things wear out, and other things come along. So that's what the role of places like us and other museums serve is to preserve and maintain the history and accessibility to these things for people to appreciate in a way that is a nice counterpoint to sort of the airshow families. You can come here every day of the year, but Oshkosh is 2 weeks every summer, or your average air show's a Saturday afternoon somewhere. So it's certainly wonderful experiences, but there's plenty of bandwidth for all of us to support aerospace history.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for going and sweltering in the cockpit of your B-36.
My pleasure.
It's been
Matt.
nice to catch up, and thank you for your continued support of the show as well.
As always. Yep.
Get that definitely on the record.
Yeah. No, appreciate that. Yeah, we have to get maybe your next tattoo, right?
There's ladies and gentlemen, there's always a cost to every sponsorship.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Sure. So, Scott, please give my best to everybody there, and it's been lovely chatting with you.
Yeah, likewise, Matt. We'll catch up soon. Cheers.
Great. Thanks. Many thanks to Scott Marchand for joining us for this episode of the Aviation Show. The Pima Air and Space Museum is closed on Christmas Day and Thanksgiving. Other than that, it's open all year round, and it really is an incredible museum to visit. It will take you forever to get round, and you will see some incredible types. And if you plan your trip just right, as you've heard, you may even see the B-36 with their new coat of paint in a few months' time. I'd like to give a special shout out to Ramon Purcell of Boneyard Safari for letting me use some of his incredible aerial videos of the B-36 and other aircraft roundabout at Pima. Please do give him a follow. Links will be in the description below. So until next time, many thanks to the team at Pima for their continued support of the show. Many thanks to all of you for supporting us as well. Please do hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube, or if you're listening to the audio version, please leave us a review and some stars in your podcast app of choice. So until next time, thank you, and do take care of yourselves. I'd like to say thanks to all of our fantastic supporters over on Patreon. If you head over to our Patreon page, you can join the fun from just £3 a month, plus a bit of VAT, get your name in these very credits, and get all the episodes ad-free and early as soon as I get the edit